It's December 1st, and that means it's finally time for me to start opening my Quilty Advent Calendar. I know that this calendar includes some fat quarters, so I picked out a quilt pattern for me to work on as I open it. So every time I open a fat quarter, I'm going to go ahead and use that up and make blocks for this quilt so that at the end of the month I have all of my blocks finished and I can just assemble the quilt top. Today I received the classic Anna Maria Textile daisies and this adorable mini tomato pincushion, and I got right to work turning this into the quilt blocks. I ordered this advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. It was a pre-order in August or September, and I received it 2 weeks ago in the mail. I'm pretty proud of myself for waiting until now to start opening it. I chose Anna Maria Textiles for my fabrics in my advent calendar, so I know that all of them will work together in the final quilt. You got to choose which designer you wanted, but it's a surprise which prints are included. And here are my first 4 quilt blocks. It's December 2nd, and that means it's time to open day 2 of my advent calendar from Sewing Box Quilt Shop. Today I received a quilt block inspired zipper pouch. I can always use more of these. And another fat quarter of Anna Maria Textiles fabrics. I'm not sure what kind of flower this is. If you know, let me know in the comments. I pressed my fabrics to get all of the creases out and then got right to work cutting it up for my quilt blocks. One thing that I love about this pattern that I'm using from Doug Leko is it uses up almost the entire fat quarter. There is very little waste left over. For my background fabrics, I'm just pulling different low volume prints that I have in my stash. That is going to make for a really great scrappy quilt at the end of the month. And I love the deep, rich colors of this fabric. So after I got that strip piecing done and cut out the units for my quilt block, I like to arrange them on my cutting mat so I have a good idea of how they go together. Then it's just a couple of trips from the sewing machine to the ironing board and back, and all of my quilt blocks are finished for today. It's December 3rd, and that means it's time to open up my Sewing Box Quilt Shop Advent Calendar. Today I got a package of machine needles, which is a great reminder to clean my machine and change the needle. And this is my favorite fat quarter so far. This bright green color is my absolute favorite to work with. I took it straight over to my ironing board, gave it some starch and pressed those creases out, and started cutting out my pieces for strip piecing. When you're sewing together long strips like this, it's really important to make sure that you're not pulling on either the top or the bottom fabric. You want to make sure that they feed evenly through your machine so you don't have any bowing or distortion in your final pieces. I also sewed one on in one direction, and then when I put the other background strip on, I flipped the whole thing around so I'm sewing in the other direction. That way, if I am distorting it a little bit, it should even itself out in the end. Now that these units are made, I can go ahead and sew all of my blocks together, and day 3 is finished. This is for sure my favorite block so far. I absolutely love it. I'll see you on day 4. It's day 4 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and today I received this beautiful orange print in a 2026 quilting calendar. This will be great to throw into a project bag. I got right to work turning this fabric into my quilt blocks for the day, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how important it is to press your fabrics, especially when working with these long, smaller seams. If you don't press your fabrics before you get started, then your cuts will not be accurate, and if your cuts aren't accurate, your stitching can't be accurate. Then when you go to press these long pieced units, you want to make sure that it's laying straight on your ironing board with no bowing. When you press your seams nice and flat, you want to move your iron in the direction of the grain and don't wiggle it around. I like to press all of my seams flat and then go back with steam to really set them in place. Then you'll have nice, straight, even pieces that you can cut down into the correct sizes. This quilt is going to be so much fun with all of these different colors and patterns. And I love how this one is abstract, but if you look closely, you can pick out the fishes and the birds. Here are today's finished blocks, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. It's day 5 of my quilting advent calendar from Sewing Box Quilt Shop. The notion today is a spool of thread, and the fat quarter is Coneflower in the colorway Pool by Anna Maria Textiles. After sewing up my strip units, I stack them on my cutting board to make the cutting process go a little bit quicker. I'm using the lines on my board to make sure that they are laying straight, and I'm staggering them so that all of the seams aren't right on top of each other. I trim a bit off the end to give myself a straight edge to work with, and then I'm lining my roller up on both the top and the side of the piece so that my cuts are straight and square. This gives me the most consistent pieces to make sure that when I assemble my blocks, they're all the same shape and size. It's best to use the line on your roller versus a line on your cutting mat because they can become distorted over time. And here are today's blocks. It's day 6 of my advent calendar from Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and my notion today is this little travel sewing kit, and today's fabric is called Tipsy. This is from Anna Maria's Perennial Borders collection, so you're meant to cut these strips out individually and use them as borders on your project, but I'm really excited to see what they look like in my finished quilt block. I'm using a technique called web piecing to make my blocks. So I'm starting by stitching together the first 2 units in each row of the block without trimming the threads in between. Then I'll go in and add the next 3 units, again without trimming the threads. That way everything stays attached in the correct order so I'm not mixing up my rows. So far I've made 4 blocks every day without having to get the seam ripper out. You can even use this technique when you're sewing together all of the blocks in your quilt top. But sometimes that can get a little bit tricky because it starts to get really heavy. I love that every one of these blocks looks completely different. I can't wait to see what we get for day 7. Day 7 of my quilting advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and today I received these 2 adorable charms. I can't wait to put these on a bag. And the fabric today is called Garden Path, and I think it's in the colorway Night. I also had to pull out a different low volume print from my stash. So far, I've been using the same low volume for about 3 days in a row before switching to a new one. That'll ensure that my finished quilt looks nice and scrappy, but still cohesive. I went ahead and cut out enough fabric to last me for the next 3 days, and then got to work assembling today's blocks. I had fun laying out all the different pieces for these blocks to try to make it look like the colors swirl around each other. And I honestly love how these turned out. I can't believe we're an entire week in already. Which block has been your favorite so far? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you tomorrow. I may still be in my pajamas, but I'm so ready for day 8 of my advent calendar. I'm so excited about this measuring tape bangle. I've been looking at this for quite a while, and today's fabric is called Fractal, and it's in the colorway Butterscotch. Now, I'm not usually a pink person, but I love the mustard yellows that are mixed into this print. So I was really excited to get started on piecing today's blocks and seeing how they would come out. I also started thinking about what I would do if I received a low volume print in one of the packages. Do you think I should add in a solid color that day or just have the block be completely low volume? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you again on day 9. It's day 9 of my quilting advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And when I opened this package, I was so happy to see these sewing machine cleaning brushes from Quilt in a Day. They are my favorite brushes to clean my machine, and I just ran out on my last retreat. The fabric for today is called Zinnia Show in the color Glow, and I really love all the different colors and patterns in this fabric. I think it works really well with the block design that I'm using. I can't believe we're already a whole week in, and I really can't believe that I haven't fallen behind yet. Let me know which block from last week was your favorite, and I'll see you on day 10. It is day 10 of my quilting advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And just a reminder, this is an advent calendar that I pre-ordered a few months ago. I chose to get all fabric from the designer Anna Maria Textiles, and each day I receive 1 fat quarter and 1 notion. Today I received a 2.5-inch quilting roller, and the fabric is titled Mythology in the colorway turquoise. Each day I'm using the fat quarter that I received to make blocks from the quilt pattern Ahhh-Mazing by Doug Leko. And at the end of the 25 days, I'll have enough blocks to complete an entire quilt top. Here's what today's quilt blocks look like, and I'll talk to you again on day 11. It's day 11 of my quilting advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And in today's package, I received this Baking Day pattern from Villa Rosa Designs. I really need to get my hands on some brown fabric so I can sew this one up this year. Today's fabric is called Sunflowers, and it's one of my favorite prints from Anna Maria. I needed to pull out some more low volume fabric, and I cut out enough of this to last me 3 or 4 days. Today I went for a Moda grunge fabric. I just love how these look in quilts. I'm really loving spending a little bit of time every day on this project. It's so nice to have that time carved out that I know I'll get to spend sewing every single day. And at the end of the month, I'm gonna have a wonderful quilt top to carry me into the new year. And now, of course, my brain is already thinking about what kind of fabric I'm going to put on the back of this quilt. I guess I'll have to do a little bit more shopping. I'll talk to you on day 12. It's day 12 and it's another pajamas all day kind of day. And in my advent calendar, I received this cute little Sewing Notions notebook. And the fabric is called Flying Geese in the colorway Soft. Fun fact, flying geese are my least favorite quilt block to make. They just never seem to turn out straight for me. Just looking at them this tiny makes my eyes cross. But this fabric is very beautiful and is perfect for the blocks that I'm making. Stick around to the end of the video to see how today's blocks turned out, and I'll talk to you again on day 13. It's day 13 of my quilting advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and I love this little penguin on the sticker. He is just so adorable. In today's package, I got this amazing sticker, and the fat quarter is called Taffy Doiler, and this is by Anna Maria Textiles. I love the sounds and the clips of me cutting fabric. And the way the machine sounds when it's sped up like this is really funny to me. Ooh, here comes more cutting. I really love the color combinations in today's blocks, and I can't wait to see what day 14 brings. It's day 14 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and yesterday was very divisive. Some people loved it, some people hated it, so let me know in the caption what you think of today's block. In today's package, we received a vintage look pack of hand sewing needles and Anna Maria Textiles echinacea print in a nice soft blue color. Here's a look of all of the cutting that goes into making these blocks every day. And make sure you stick around to the end to see what today's blocks look like. I'll talk to you again on day 15. It's day 15 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and this just might be my favorite day so far. This fabric is called Celine, and the colors and the size of the florals on it are going to be absolutely perfect for this block. I was also so excited to see these tags. I love being able to tuck these right into the binding of my finished quilt. And the ones that say Sewing Box Quilt Shop are going to be the perfect reminder of this project. I really hope you stick around till the end of this video and see what this quilt block ended up looking like. And I'll talk to you again on day 16. It's day 16 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. Let's get right into this package. Today I received a pair of travel scissors, which is perfect for me because I always seem to forget those at home when I go for hand stitching night. Today's fabric is called Betta's Garden and it's in the color Plum. And I thought for today I'd take you over to the sewing machine so you can see what it looks like putting these blocks together start to finish. All of these blocks start with some strip piecing, then those strips get cut down to size and I start assembling my blocks. I like to do chain piecing because it feels like the process goes a little bit faster that way. Stick around to the end of the video to see today's beautiful blocks, and I'll talk to you again on day 17. It's day 17 of my advent calendar from Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and in today's package I received a pencil and an erasable highlighter. I love to use these highlighters when I'm working with a new pattern. I can highlight the cutting list as I go, and then when I finish the pattern I hit it with the iron to erase all of the marks, and it's like new for the next time I use it. The fabric today is called Stars and Stripes, and I love the details of the little stars in the center of all the flowers. It's something that you don't see until you look a little bit closer, and I just love that little extra detail. Watch to the end of the video to see today's blocks, and I'll talk to you again on day 18. It's day 18 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and in today's package I received a pattern from Villa Rosa Designs and our first truly low volume piece of fabric. This is called Soft Peony Dough, and it's a very light, almost white, but with a tiny tinge of pink. I thought about adding another print if I had a low volume, or even adding in a solid, but then I just decided to make a completely low volume block. So I chose a fabric from my stash that, while being low volume, it has enough of a color difference to give me the contrast that I need to make this block pattern work. And I'm honestly really happy with how these blocks turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you again on day 19. Day 19 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And are you the kind of person that shakes every present before they open it? In today's package, we got binder clips, which I can always use more of those. There never seems to be enough. And when I opened up this fabric, I was overwhelmed with memories of my dad. He took such pride in his yard, and I used to go along with him every year to the nursery to pick out the flowers. He always planted impatiens, begonias, and pansies. So this print is absolutely perfect. This will be my 6th Christmas without my dad, and I wish every day that I could tell him about what I'm doing. He would be so excited to see all of these quilts come together. So I hope you like today's block as much as I do. Go hug your family, and I'll talk to you again on day 20.
With every Christmas card I write.
It's day 20 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And in today's package, we received a stain remover, which is so great because I did get a stain on one of my quilts a couple weeks back. And this stunning fabric, I just love the colors in this. It's called Bells of Ireland, and it's in the colorway Moss. I also wanted to show you a quick flip through of the pattern book that I've been using for this project. It's called Stashtastic 2, and it's by Doug Leko. The pattern for this project is called Ahhh-Mazing, but there are so many great patterns in this book that are perfect for stash busting. So if you love a scrappy quilt, I can't recommend this book enough. I hope you love today's block, and I'll talk to you again on day 21. It's December 21st, and we are somehow 3 weeks into my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. Time is flying. In today's package, I received a project bag featuring Bolt the Shop Dog, and this fabric called Unfurl is giving me hippie vibes, and I love it. These colors are just so bright and cheerful. So I hope you love block number 21, and I'll see you on day 22.
Now come lay beside me here under.
It's Christmas week and day 22 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And this package was stuffed tight. Wrapped up inside of my fat quarter today were these beautiful shiny gold pins. And today's fabric is called 9 Patches, and it's in the colorway Rich. And today I'm going to show you a little bit closer how I press my seams to get perfect intersections. On the top and the bottom row, I'm pressing my seams out towards the ends. And on my center row, I'm pressing my seam towards the middle. You can take this to the ironing board to press, but I usually finger press right at my sewing machine. This way, when I attach my rows together, my intersections butt right up against each other. I stitch until that first intersection is secure, and then adjust as needed to make sure that that second intersection is lined up just as well. This gives me perfect intersections every time. Here are today's blocks, and I'll talk to you again on day 23. It's day 23 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And in today's package, we received the pattern Anna Stars, which is perfect because there's an upcoming sew-along in January for this pattern. Today's fabric is called Mums. It's in the colorway Pull, and I chose to pair this with the darker background fabric. I really enjoy how today's blocks turned out, and I'll talk to you again on Christmas Eve. It's day 24 of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop, and I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful Christmas Eve. I'm taking a break from prepping food for my Christmas dinner to open my package. I received a seam ripper with a rubber tip to remove the pieces of thread, and today's fabric is called Forget Me Not in the colorway Romantic. It's time to choose another low volume print, and I went with this one that's been in my stash for a long time. I picked this up at a fabric thrift sale and it had a couple stains on it, so I'm just cutting out around those and using the parts that aren't stained. I'm pretty happy to get this off of my shelf. I hope you liked today's blocks, and I'll talk to you again on Christmas morning. It is December 25th, the final day of my advent calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. And while I should be preparing for my whole family to come over, I had to see what's in here. I got a cute little bolt sticker, a mini charm pack, and a piece of Anna Maria's linen fabric called Feeling Hoopful. And even though this is the last block, this series is definitely not over. I'm going to be showing you how I finish putting together this quilt top and turning it into a quilt. And if you want to sew along with me next year, advent calendars from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop will be available for pre-order on July 1st. There's going to be some new and exciting options for next year, so make sure you follow to get all of the updates and be first in line to get your advent calendar. And watch to the end to see the massive stack of quilt blocks that I finished in the past 25 days. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas with your family. Now that all of my quilt blocks are finished from my advent calendar project, it's time to turn them into a quilt top. So I laid them out on my bed and then took pictures on my phone so it's easier to look at the balance of colors and values throughout the quilt. I spent some time moving blocks around until I was happy with how it looked, and then I started adding sashing between each of the blocks. Once my blocks were in rows, I added my sashing strips in between each row. I start by taking a few stitches in the beginning and then lining up my seams, stitching until those seams are secure, and then lining up my next seams. This quilt is 9 blocks per row with 11 rows, so there are a ton of seams to line up. I usually don't pin my rows until the quilt top starts getting really heavy, and then I pin just to help with that weight. Here is a little peek at what the quilt top is looking like, but you'll have to wait till it's all done to see the full thing. The Sewing Box Quilt Shop reached out and offered to send me backing for the advent calendar quilt I've been working on all month long. It just arrived in the mail, and let me show you what I picked out. This is one of Anna Maria Textiles' 108-inch wide backing. The design is called Currents, and I chose the colorway Mango. I think this is absolutely stunning. I also picked up this Hello Alice quilt kit, and I cannot wait to sew this one up. The colors are absolutely gorgeous. If you'd like to sew along with me, you can order yours at sewingboxquiltshop.com. It's time to get the advent calendar quilt loaded up onto the long arm. I thought I'd give you a look at what this process looks like. For a larger quilt like this, it can take about 20 to 25 minutes to get it loaded onto the machine and get the machine set up for quilting. So I'm starting by loading my backing fabric, and I'm attaching it to the back and front rollers. And then I roll it back and forth a couple times to make sure that all the fabric is evenly rolled up. You want this to be as straight and evenly loaded as possible. Next, I add the side clamps to give a gentle tension on both sides of the fabric. You don't want this pulled tight, you just want it taut so there's no wrinkles. Then I add my piece of batting and I use my machine to baste this down. This holds it in place while I place the quilt top and gives me a straight line to make sure that my quilt isn't loaded crooked. Next up, I put my quilt top on and baste this in place as well. This time I'm basting across the top of the quilt and down each side. This makes sure it doesn't shift or fold up on the edges while it's quilting. After it's all basted, I'm ready to start stitching. I did need to adjust my clamps a little bit because my backing fabric is on the smaller side. And now I can just let my machine quilt and advance the quilt as needed for every row. Now that my quilt is off the long arm, it's time to get it trimmed up. While I'm doing this, I'm trying to get the straightest edges possible while maintaining good 90-degree angles on all my corners. I like to start with my large square roller and trim up each of the corners first. I'm lining the 1-inch line on my roller up with the seam of my border. And sometimes you just need to adjust your quilt a little bit as you go. You want to make sure that it's not being pulled in any direction that will make it go out of shape. After trimming my 4 quarters, I switch over to my long roller to get the edges trimmed, and then just keep going all around all 4 sides. When this is finished, my quilt will be ready for binding, and that means we are almost finished. I'm ready to make my binding for my advent calendar quilt. I cut 1 strip from each of the fat quarters to 2.5 inches long, and now I'm attaching those together using a diagonal seam. Using a diagonal seam on your binding helps distribute the extra bulkiness and makes it easier to attach it in the end. I'm just laying my strips right sides together at a 90-degree angle and then sewing a diagonal line from one corner to the next. On some of these strips, I'm lining them up right on the edges, but on the sides with the salvages that I didn't cut off beforehand, I'm just leaving those hang off the edges when I attach them. And I'm going to keep going, feeding these through my sewing machine until all of my pieces are attached into one long strip. After that, I can go ahead and cut them all apart and then use my scissors to trim off the excess fabric. Now I'll take this over to my sewing machine, press my seams nice and flat, and then fold my binding strip in half and give it another press, lining up the raw edges. Now it's ready to attach to my quilt. I like to attach my binding 100% by machine, and of course that's what I'm going to do with this quilt too. I start by basting on my labels. These are so much fun to add to your quilts and add a special little touch. Then I grab my binding strip that I prepared in the previous video, leave about a 6 to 8 inch long tail, and start sewing this on with the raw edges lined up with the raw edge of the quilt. I backstitched in the beginning to lock it into place, and I just lay it in place as I go. You can clip or pin beforehand if that's what you prefer. I stop stitching 1/4 inch away from the edge of my quilt, lift my presser foot and turn my quilt so I stitch straight off the corner of the quilt. Then I turn the entire quilt so I'm working down the next side, flip my binding straight up to get that nice 45-degree angle, and then back down over itself. Then I stitch down the next side, again back stitching in the beginning to lock my threads into place. Let me show you that again at the next corner. Stop stitching 1/4 inch away from the end of your quilt, leaving the needle down, lift your presser foot and sew straight off the corner of the quilt. Turn your quilt so you're working down the next side. Flip your binding up to get that nice 45-degree angle and then back down over itself. Continue stitching down the next side of your quilt, again back stitching in the beginning to lock your threads into place. When you get back around to where you started, back stitch again, and I'll show you in the next video how to attach these ends. In the last video, I attached my quilt binding all the way around the back side of my quilt, and now I need to attach my 2 ends. I trim off a little piece of my binding and use that to measure my overlap. You want your overlap to be equal to the width of your binding strips. I cut these strips to 2.5 inches, so I want them to overlap by 2.5 inches. I trim off any excess binding, and now I can go ahead and attach these using my diagonal seam. I like to use a diagonal seam because it spreads the bulk from the seam out over a longer period across your binding. That makes the attaching less noticeable in the final quilt. I open up my bottom strip and lay it right sides up on my surface. Then I take my top strip and lay it right sides down on top of the bottom strip, turned 90 degrees with the edges lined up. Now I'm going to stitch a diagonal line from the top corner down to the bottom. If your quilt is tugging too much on your binding, you can add some pins to help you hold this in place. And if you prefer, you can mark this line before you stitch it. Now before I trim off my excess fabric, I always like to give a tug to my quilt to make sure that I attached it correctly. It's a lot easier to fix before you trim off this fabric than after. I just use my scissors to cut this down to 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I finger press my seam so the edges lay nice and flat, and I can finish attaching my binding to the back side of the quilt. I'll show you how I finish off this binding on the front side in the next video. It's time to attach my binding to the front side of my quilt. I moved the needle of my machine all the way over to the left, and this gives my machine more control because there's more fabric under the presser foot. I wrap the binding around the raw edge of my quilt, lower my presser foot, and holding on to the top thread, I drop my needle down into my quilt, raise it back up, and pull the bobbin thread up to the top side of the quilt. This helps prevent any nesting from happening at the back of your fabric when you start stitching. I stitch forward and then in reverse for a few stitches to lock my thread into place. And then I put my binding in place, making sure that my fold goes over the line of stitching from when I attached it to the back of the quilt. When I get down to the first corner, I stop stitching 3 or 4 inches away from the bottom of the quilt, fold the bottom binding up and the top binding over, and stitch until my needle is just over that 45-degree fold. Then with my needle down, I lift my presser foot, turn my quilt so I'm working down the next side and continue stitching. Let me show you that again a little bit slower this time. When I get around 3 or 4 inches away from my bottom corner, I fold the bottom edge up, making sure to continue that fold all the way off the end of the quilt, and then I fold the side binding over on top of that bottom edge. That gives me that nice 45-degree angle at the corner of my quilt, and it also ensures that the extra bulk of this fold is on the opposite side of the back side of the quilt. Now I'm going to stitch down until my needle is just over that fold. Then with my needle in the down position, I raise my presser foot, turn my quilt, and continue stitching down the next side. And then I just repeat this process for the other 2 corners. Now because this binding is so thick, your presser foot might have a hard time moving the fabric through in the beginning. So I use my hemostats and stick it underneath the back of the presser foot just to lift it up a little bit and move the fabric more evenly through. When you get back around to where you started stitching, overlap your line of stitching and backstitch to lock it into place. And now for the grand reveal, here's my finished 2025 Advent Calendar quilt. Pre-orders for next year's Advent Calendar from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop will open on July 1st, and I hope that you join me for a sew-along. I'll make sure to update you with more details as that date gets closer. My 2025 Advent Calendar quilt is all finished and ready for cold winter nights on the couch. 2026 Advent Calendar will be available for pre-order starting July 1st from the Sewing Box Quilt Shop. I'll make sure to share more updates as that date approaches, and I hope that you'll join me for a sew-along. I want to thank everyone who's followed along with this series, and I want to extend a warm welcome to all of my new followers. Thank you so much for watching, liking, and commenting on my videos, and I can't wait to show you what 2026 has in store.